It's 4 o'clock. I'll call the community safety meeting of Tuesday, December 9th to order. Motion on the minutes. Second, all in favor? Next committee meeting date is January 13th, 2026 at 4 o'clock in the Anderson Room. Do we have any additions or deletions from the thing here, the agenda? Councillor Heed?
An additional item, unsheltered sites on Crown land.
Okay, we'll make that 7.1. Okay, any other additions or deletions? Okay, we'll make that 7.1, and Councillor Wolf is online. So somebody's watching. First item, Mr. Frail, Ken Frail, Richmond, to come and speak on hands-on fire extinguisher training. Mr. Frail?
Yeah, thank you. It's okay if I sit?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I brought a few props. They're more for me than anything else, but start by saying that last summer there was a fire in Squamish, and my son's family could see the flames from their house. I was at recycling one day, and I noticed a fellow dropping off 4 expired fire extinguishers. I asked if I could have those so my grandsons could practice. I wanted to train my 13-year-old grandsons. They have a fire pit in their backyard up there. I wanted them to be resilient. And one of the best ways to learn, I felt, was to give them fire extinguishers to practice with, to put their own fire out at the end of a night. So that was a year ago. And I go to recycling a couple times a week. And over the past year, I've been thinking about the changes in Richmond. One of the changes that affects police, fire, and ambulance is that when we take down 5 houses, you think of 5 kitchens. You think of perhaps 5 grease fires that could start in a kitchen. We've gone from 5 on that patch of land to maybe 25. So the risk factor goes up. The other thing that happens on that very same patch of land is there's more vehicles, and every square inch of the property gets used. If it's a narrow laneway and somebody parks just for a moment and there's a fire call, and one of these big rigs comes in there, it can be held up getting to a fire. So an increase in the number of people, possible fires, density in a small patch of land brings a few other challenges for first responders. It means there's more people there, perhaps more language difficulty, especially in the case of an emergency, more elderly, more with disability, more children. So the patch of land becomes a lot more difficult to respond to. Now, we know too, from especially just seeing the fire in Steveston, that one house fire, like where I live in a house, if I have a house fire because I caused a fire in the kitchen, it's only going to affect my house by the time fire gets there. But if it's in a multi-unit condo or apartment, by the time the fire crew gets to the second floor, maybe past some obstacles, difficulty getting in there, it can be many, many people that are displaced. And a lot of those are going to have problems. They're going to, children, pets, people with disabilities, hard to evacuate. So more risk. We know too that the best training you can ever give someone, whether you're teaching snowboarding, firearm safety, CPR, or a fire extinguisher, is to actually hold one in your hands and discharge it. Now I found, since I started looking at this about a year ago, I started thinking and asking people about that, and I found very few people who've ever used a fire extinguisher. I was a policeman for over 30 years and I've never used one. I've got several, I brought 3 of them from my house, and I'll talk about those in just a moment. Fire extinguishers cost between $30 and hundreds of dollars. It's not likely you're going to pay $30 for one and go out and give it a shot or say to your kid, go try this. Yesterday at recycling, there were 30. We throw out hundreds of expensive, what would have been expensive fire extinguishers at recycling annually. I got looking at those and I thought, why don't we use those as training aids for fire prevention before we throw them out? I talked, I believe it was Kylie at the Richmond Fire Rescue. She's had some inquiries or made some contact with, I guess, city recycling. One of the concerns is the fear that perhaps a fire extinguisher that's been donated has been altered somehow. I can't imagine somebody put gasoline in one and drop it off at recycling. I think most of these probably still work. However, I know that Burnaby has done a program where they've had, I talked to a good friend of mine who was a firefighter there, that they've had a fire in a pan, a grease fire, and they've shown people how to put it out. I know they're difficult to put out. WestJet, my son's a pilot with WestJet. Annually, they do firearm training, or not firearm, shoot the passengers. They do annual fire extinguisher training, and they use fire extinguisher with water in it and compressed air. I talked to Rita in Blockwatch, and we have 84 people in my Blockwatch subdivision. Annually, we have a barbecue, and we usually invite the RCMP. The RCMP comes in and does a fantastic job. It's a chance to meet new neighbors. We get to find out who has hearing issues, mobility issues, new kids in the block, maybe who could be at risk if there was a break-in, or perhaps even a fire. What I'd like to see is I would like to see the City of Richmond initiate a fire prevention program where there's actually hands-on practice with a fire extinguisher. Some cities, you can bring your expired fire extinguisher out and use it. I still think there's possibility with the ones that are at recycling. Even if we were to hire a fire technician to go through them and verify that they're okay for public use. But there's got to be some facility to be able to provide some practice in apartments and condos and low-income housing, even where the most difficult to house are housed, where often we have a fire. We have fires in this province. I think we have to provide the best training we can, which is actually getting a person to hold one, discharge one, maybe before they think about cooking with grease or an inflammable, that they think about where is that fire extinguisher. And if you're comfortable with it, you might even want to put one in your car. I think Richmond, if we had the best hands-on fire extinguisher program to familiarize people with them, we might even see people carrying them in our car. We could inspire other communities, even remote ones where they have volunteer fire, to get people out, using them, preventing them, even a slight fire that's at the side of a road because of a cigarette. I think this really fits my last point. When I talked to Rita at our Blockwatch, and I see what kind of community sense and feeling you get together when you get a whole community together, and the police department comes out. And it's basically a little show and tell. People talk to police, they don't usually get a chance to do that. But you get to talk to your neighbors, you get to see the police, you get to feel like you're a community. And it's a purpose for getting people together and having little clusters of groups that know people. Sometimes you don't have that in multifamily buildings or apartment buildings. But I think another purpose for Blockwatch to exist might be to have, I could phone Rita and say, you know what, this year I would really like the fire department to come out and do a demonstration, have them come by and do fire prevention training rather than the fire department. Like, let's mix it up. But I think we can inspire other communities to step it up and do a better job. Anyway, the last thing is, I pulled these extinguishers. This one's from my boat. And I thought it was pretty smart having everything you're supposed to have in your boat. It's been expired for 3 years. I have a welder in my garage, and a couple times I've set an oily rag off when I'm doing just a small welding job. I took a look at it. It was built in 1995. A fire chief may take me in cuffs with this one, but that's 30 years old. And I've been counting on it until I looked at it today. And the other one here doesn't even have a date on it. maybe it's in Roman numerals. But I'm as guilty as anybody else of not having a proper fire extinguisher. Anyway, that's the point I wanted to make. But I brought a can of glue here together, or a bottle of glue, to say that one of the things that holds my community together well is that we have these public gatherings in the summertime. And we do have police out. I like to have the fire department out. And through that, we would know who isn't going to hear the alarm, maybe who can't get out of the building, who's just had a knee surgery or something like that. But it would be nice if there was less demand on fire, less demand on police to come out and manage the traffic scene, and less demand on the fire department to take people away from that emergency smoke inhalation or something else.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I think we should do a referral to staff on this, on integrating fire training in relationship to our block party program. Maybe it can somehow be coordinated with that. They can come up with options for us, and an information piece. So fire training, connecting it to existing city events and information. So if you guys have some questions, we can go to Councillor McNulty.
Thanks very much, Ken. You were always on the leading edge of things when you were doing block watching years ago. I think it's great that you brought this forward and on it. And you mentioned that your 3 fire extinguishers, you have 3 of them. And I guess probably following and speaking to support the referral at the same time is to look at the propriety of having a fire extinguisher in the house to start with. And then what kind of it, where do you place it, and how many should you have? Most people probably have one in the kitchen. I'll bet it's still in the box that it's in if it's one of those $35 fire. So I think what you bought it, and I'd like to see referred to staff and work with Mr. Farrell and his block watch crew because they've already done something on it to see how it works. Before we jump in totally, but I have some questions for the chief after when he comes to his report. So thank you very much for it. I think you've brought something to the forefront, and I agree with you, the hands-on, those of us, the fire haven't had a chance, but when we were in Japan, for example, all the Japanese have a chance to take your frying pan, put out the grease fire, and then we did more training in Japan than we've ever done here in British Columbia. But we're part of a group that went over there. But seeing it in action, having taken part in it, I would agree everything you've said. So thank you for that. And I agree with the chair on the referral.
Chair, may I respond to?
Yep.
When I spoke to Rita this week about the possibility of having block watch be a central point of contact for maybe the fire department, she thought it was a great idea. And there's no sense duplicating this. It would give more strength to block watch. Some communities are concerned for crime. Others, particularly on the west side of Richmond, where there's not a lot of crime, might have more interest in fire coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much for reaching out to the Block Watch department. I think that is an excellent venue to go forward with this. I was going to ask, did you do any checking into like insurance agencies? And like, when you buy your insurance, there's all these discounts if you've got X, Y, and Z. And I wonder, I'm going to go home and check my fire extinguishers to see if they're expired, because I'm willing to bet they are. And I wonder if this couldn't be an incentive also through like insurance companies, that if you can show you have a valid, fire extinguisher, we give an extra perk or something.
I did not. I don't want to step into the fire department as the experts on this.
Yeah.
I don't want to confuse anything by you suggesting something like that. I have no real knowledge about that. Thank you.
And, the only person I know that's ever used a fire extinguisher is my husband, and that was because he worked at Air Canada. They would have big pans that they would put jet fuel in and light it on fire, and then they had to put the fires out. And because often it's the people working on the ramp that are there first, not the fire department. It takes them longer to get out to where the flights are. And then I was going to ask about, we also have a neighborhood enhancement grant. And so we give like small amounts of money, like $300 to $400 to neighborhoods. And then they have kind of like a block party or whatever. Do you think that this is something that would be conducive to those kind of events?
I was thinking about maybe some of the poorer buildings, people that are more financially challenged, how much it would cost for them to, could they buy something and use something? And so that's why I was really looking at the fiscal responsibility, if you like, of being able to get ones from recycling and be able to use those. So people wouldn't be pressured to spend $20 on a demo or something like that. I think probably some communities might want to do that. You need a good coordinator to do it. My wife does it in her subdivision. We stopped asking for grants because we find that by the time we apply for the grant and then explain how it was used, it's just simpler to do it.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you.
What I meant in the referral is that we refer it to staff, including how to deliver it through the block party grant program. So if someone's already having one, they could just tick a box and have
Okay, excellent.
the plug and play, if you will. Okay, Councillor Heed.
Yes, Chair, just out of process here, we've got an expert sitting in the room here, and it's the chief. I'd really like to hear from him based on this. I know he's got his management reports, but I think it's very important that the fire chief gives his initial comments on this. And the reason is Block Watch needs to be more than just the police. Block Watch needs to be where we have the fire, where we have the emergency people involved in it in case there's ever an event here. So I'd really like to hear from the chief, because I think this is one way we can enhance block or neighborhood watches by putting this in, putting the fire department in, putting the emergency preparedness, all part of it, because we already have the structure there.
Chief Wishloff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Initial comments are I couldn't agree more with the collaboration at block events and community events. That's typically our bread and butter, where we are invited to. We being the outreach team, Brian and Kylie, are very happy to come and attend at any event we're invited to, just mainly based on timing and scheduling. I also can state safely without talking to the OIC that we do partner on a lot of events here in the city, and so there would be lots of support for that, absolutely.
I'm hoping that, is our Block Watch coordinator through the police, or who is it for? That we start to work with the Block Watch coordinator to incorporate fire and emergency preparedness into it. And I see the chief nodding his head here. So hopefully we can get something formally and structured to enhance what we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Galanders?
Thank you through the chair, and thanks for your presentation. I don't really have a question, just mostly comments, and just wanted to say I appreciate all the props and, and the wood and the glue too. And just especially the way you highlight, just the significance of how vulnerable people are when they're in a block building, in an apartment building, because exactly what you said. And we had that horrible fire last week, and it had me thinking the exact same thing. It's like a fire of that size would have just ruined my house, but all these people are affected. It's really profound. And we all know people that have disabilities, and I know people they cannot go down there's no elevator in their building, and they can't use the stairs, so they have to just wait out on the porch, and how terrifying that would be. And you're at the mercy of other people in the building, whether they know how to use a fire extinguisher or not, or if it could have been prevented.
Right. Yep.
So just really appreciated you highlighting that, and the referral's great. And I also think there's definitely a place for the recycled extinguishers, because if we did have a program and the fire department was going to come to the Block Watch party and do the training, they could go by the work yard, just check them, make sure they're working okay, and then bring them so that we're not wasting some, like you say. And the other option could be, everybody bring your expired one, use that to train, and then you can purchase one there at a good rate or whatever, as a way to because I'd be scared to get rid of mine, because don't exactly know where to get another one. Yeah, I think my mom always gives me
Canadian
ours.
Tire. Canadian
Yeah,
Tire.
my
Okay.
mom always gives me us ours because she wants to make sure that we're safe. So we get them for Christmas and stuff. But you know, I haven't shown the kids how to use them. We use the tractor and stuff when we're putting out our big fires. So yeah. Anyways, so just great presentation. Thank you, and there's definitely value in it. And great.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Farrell.
I actually have 8 fire extinguishers. They're all expired.
Okay, well,
And
thank
I've
you.
never used one. Yeah.
Okay, we'll make the information piece part of it because I am sure the fire chief doesn't want everybody practicing with their expired extinguishers in their front yard, just lighting random fires and trying to put them out themselves. So
Thank you
let's
very
make a referral to staff to investigate fire training with expired extinguishers. Working with Block Watch is perhaps working with Block Watch as the contact point, including a mechanism to incorporate or work with block parties that are supported through our block party program, and an information outreach program for fire safety. Just, the staff can figure out how that fleshes out. Okay? All in favor? Thanks, okay. Yeah, we can check it after. Okay. First item, Mr. Corrado, Community Bylaws Monthly Activity Report.
To the chair, I have nothing further to add, and I'm open to questions.
We have a motion? Second, all in favor? Thank you, Mr. Corrado. Richmond Fire Rescue Monthly Report. Fire Chief, Chip, welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing to add to my report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. All right. And I would just like to start with thanks to the fire chief and all the staff. My family was actually impacted. They were living in the Fraser Place apartments, and they appreciate all the work that was done, including the emergency services that was triggered right away and was able to help people, move people to the community center and tell people what to do, where to go, and et cetera. So that was very helpful. Took a lot of burden off the individual people that were suddenly finding themselves in the middle of the road watching their homes burn down. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, first question for Councillor Heed.
Yes, Chief, I'm not sure whether you used to provide it or I don't see it here. I'm looking at again something that is of significant importance when we start to look at the overdose poisoning, especially as it relates to opioids. And if I see the year over year from October 24 to 25, it's significantly increased. But I don't see it from last month, and I don't recall what it was last month. And then when I look at the incidents, it shows 7 for the opioids. Do you have that, or did you provide it to us once when we also did the month prior?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, thank you for picking that up. The line graphs and the bar graphs show a number of different referenced statistics. Month to month is our best attempt at trying to show apples to apples as far as what a month in September last year versus a month in September looks like this year. I'm happy to adjust and to add anything that might be of value that could assist with your needs and what the committee would like.
Maybe year-to-date compared to year-to-date for the previous 3 years, if that data is available to you. Just one.
Absolutely.
Line graph or bar graph or whatever is easier for your staff to accumulate. So I can at least, because I know last month, based on the discussion, it was down significantly. And now it's up to 7. So I just, that's, anecdotally, I can say that's what it was, and you confirm. Just so we can have some comparison when we start to go year to date.
To provide the context, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you through the chair. Thanks for the report. And yeah, just to further that comment. I noticed the sharp incline as well, and I remembered that last month was at 0 for specifically opioids. And I did hear anecdotally through just reports on the radio and maybe through some outreach workers that things were getting bad again. And then so to see the 7, the increase of 7 was kind of alarming. And then also on CS25, if you look at the bar graph on the bottom right, you know, there was that big peak during COVID and after COVID, and then it kind of started to go down. And I think last year, and since we didn't know where our year-to-date numbers this year were at, we kind of thought everything was on a downward trajectory. And then if you look at 2025 now, it's gone sharply up and it's higher than it's ever been. So, you know, it's actually getting worse out there. Is that what you could say to that? Based on that, on CS25?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Galanders, that lower graph on CS25 is a comparator of October to October,
Right.
not an annual.
Not a year-to-date as well?
Not a
Okay.
year-to-date. So it's, I don't want to say just the month, but it's
Okay.
only the captures within that month.
Okay,
And-
that's,
And those numbers are actually the total calls that my crews respond to for what we consider an overdose. It may not necessarily be opioids, it could be prescription
That was the
medication. could be-
all-
That's the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
kit and caboodle, yeah.
okay, yeah, no, that's good to know. And then just to further comment on what Councillor Heed suggested, with our RCMP reports, we do get this is this much over or under last month and the year-to-date and the previous, and whether it's, so that might be a helpful thing for that. And then on CS18, the hazardous materials, I just noticed that, I mean, obviously these things can fluctuate, but most things are sort of within reason of the 5-year average for an October. And you would think something like hazardous materials, perhaps it could be jumped up from Halloween. Maybe people are lighting off things other than firecrackers, I don't know. But if the average is 7 and it's double that, it's 15. Was there something significant going on with fuel spills or a repeat offender of a business or something?
Through the chair to Councillor Galanders, October showed more numerous responses for us for construction sites with natural gas impacts. Or, you know, October typically is when people start using their furnaces. And so they're turning their furnaces on after having been off for 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And so there could be a small leak with respect to their heating system, carbon monoxide calls for service. And so we will see a spike in the early fall, early winter at that time. That's, I don't want to say it's normalized, but it isn't out of context for what our experience is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, when I look at the chart on page 21, it's staggering that 600 of the calls were for medical. And then when you could break it down, and then 31 calls for fire, 112 of those for chest pain, 33 were overdose, but I'm glad that you broke it down into the opioids versus alcohol medications, 7 opioid overdose doses. When you have, whether it's alcohol or opioids, when you have someone that's OD'd for whatever reason, do you provide like remember we talked about this before, like a little card, like where to call, who to get help from, so people can, I mean, this is when they're most vulnerable, might be most interested in receiving information on where they can go to try to stop the cycle.
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I recently had an opportunity, I want to say just about 6, 7 weeks ago. I was invited to participate in a forum through Narcotics Anonymous here in the city. And there was I believe, an international forum. There you go. I saw you there, actually, yes. And so after the forum was over, I spoke with a lot of the organizers and asked how can RFR be engaged in promoting the services and the processes to access help. And so I was able to acquire a contact and get some of that material and other materials as well. And so we're looking at how to institute that, how to train some of our folks on the front line to be able to find the right time to offer that material out. Often it isn't during the emergency or in the scene or in the dark at the middle of the night. There could be a better opportunity from that. But we are pursuing that right now.
I think for what it costs to print some cards, that could be something that somebody puts in their pocket, and that might just be the one time they go, okay, enough. let's get some help. So yeah, I would encourage all first responders, whether they're outreach workers or whether they're, fire or whether they're the police, to have these in their pocket. It should be a policy.
I have to add too that a number of the stories that I heard and took away from the seminar engaged me to feel the same way about the potential. And in some instances, it was 6 or 7 times that someone had been touched through that way before they finally had an opportunity to make that decision. And so, yes, I agree. And
Make it so, number one. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a comment. We see the growing calls for service for fire to attend to things like overdoses. But realistically, if you call 911, you'd like an ambulance to show up. So I'm wondering how much downloading's happening from ambulance to this? Because how many calls are they getting that they're attending? And can we get that data to compare it to say, okay, they attended 50 opiate, right? Like there's a whole thing that we're not aware of happening. We know what your numbers are, but we don't know what the full number is. So we might see a spike, but it could be because we don't have enough ambulances on the road, or because the ambulances are busy with somebody else doing something else, or some other reason. But we don't know. We only know what you've been called to, and we don't know why you were called versus the ambulance. So it would be interesting to understand what the BC ambulance numbers are. Are we able to get those numbers for the calls for service?
Madam Chair, I believe that that information is available. We certainly lean on the Ministry of Health to find out that information. Why RFR responds to these calls is that service level is set by council, ostensibly with recommendations made by myself as a operations director. And, there are various options available to the city for, do we want the fullest level of service that we currently perform or other levels of service?
Well, we obviously want the person attended to immediately, but my assumption is if you call 911, you're going to, if someone's having a poisoning, you're going to call for an ambulance. That's what you're going to ask for. So, like, they're not just diverting you straight to fire because council has said that we will also attend to this. They've diverted the person to fire because there's a capacity issue, is my understanding.
I can't speak to the capacity for BC Ambulance, but what I can say is through the combined dispatch process, that if someone phones and says they're having a medical emergency, and if it hits the criteria that Richmond Fire Rescue has established that they will attend to, those calls automatically go to both services at the same time. And so often we are more strategically located in the city, and so we can arrive quicker than BC Ambulance can, and our level of training allows us to establish a baseline, start doing some life intervention work while an ambulance arrives, and then we work in concert with them and turn the patient over to them.
Okay, so you're handling all the overdose calls, or should some hitting the ambulance and you aren't getting called to it as well?
It's quite possible that there are calls that could be identified as an overdose that aren't life-threatening, in which case we may not be summoned to go to them, which would be appropriate.
Okay, so I think it'd still be interesting to be able to see the data so that we're not just looking at it in a silo. Councillor Heed, you have a question?
Yes, and I think the chief answered most of the question, but we've explored this in this committee previously. You recall we had a discussion on this, and I see the superintendent for ambulances sitting with us today too. So they've all heard it, and even from a coastal health point of view, but I don't see any, unfortunately, I see statistics being held within their own silos versus shared. And I think, do we not have an outstanding referral on this with respect to getting the overall statistics related to opioid overdose? I recall we had a lengthy discussion on this a few times.
I'm happy to speak to my memory on that. There was a very healthy referral that was sent back to my team. We accessed a lot of information from the Coroner Service and from Vancouver Coastal Health and brought that back to committee a while ago. It is a number of different agencies capturing their data for their usage. And so an overall picture is difficult to pull together. And you think in terms of a collaborative operation, a task force is pulled together where people are working shoulder to shoulder to tackle a problem. That would be my suggestion on how to get together a better picture for that kind of piece.
And I thank you for that, because I don't think we're in a crisis mode right now, but anything where someone overdoses is a crisis, but we're certainly not to the extent where Vancouver has been and is, or where we've been previously on this. But it has been noted, and I know it's a capacity issue too for your people to gather these stats from all the different organizations that may have them. So the other point I wanted to make here relates to the protocol, and you expanded on that a bit. And certainly, as you alluded to, when the call comes into 911, where we've got an emergency, it's downloaded to both a lot of times. And your units are usually the first to show up. But that is built into a protocol, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, yes, there are several protocols that go into that decision as to who and from where they go to.
So it's just not, well, we're going to send ambulance this time, we're going to send fire next time. No, it's a protocol that the dispatchers and everyone, including your organization and EHS, is aware of.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Second, all in favor? Thank you. And the command vehicle. Okay. Chief Wishlove? Any other comments on this?
I don't have any other further comments, but again, I'm happy to discuss this with your committee.
Okay. Councillor Day, you have a question?
Please, so the mobile command unit's going to cost a little over $1.3 million, and you'll share it with the RCMP, is that correct?
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct.
I love that idea because, honestly, I hope we never need it, but it'd be great if we could use it more than just, for major events. So I understand from the report that we'll also take it out to things like Canada Day and the Maritime Festival. So you have a presence and, it's there in case of emergency. But what I'm wondering is it possible to use it more than not? Because I know from my experience, when you park a vehicle, it's just not happy. It's got to be rolled every now and then. And I wonder if you couldn't make a protocol where you actually use it for some minor events, like even city events that were like not major festivals, because the more we see it out there, the better, because, want to use it or lose it, right? So.
I'll let the OIC follow on with some comments as well, but when the chief and I were discussing this some time ago, we both have a similar vision on how this can operate and how it can be deployed and how both of our units can serve us. And a lot of our discussions gravitate towards proactive deployment of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Our outreach teams, both of us are at every community event in the city that's scheduled, and there's all good reasons why this vehicle could be deployed and used there for a central point of contact to attract the community in, so we can better give them information on prevention, preparedness, resilience, all of those good pieces. And so, yes, I see this unit getting used a lot, not just on emergencies, but certainly on preventative pieces. But
Councillor Heed?
Yes, a few
I had a
questions.
follow-up question.
Oh, sorry. Carry on.
Sorry. That's great. The more we use it, the better. It's basically an education tool as well. So I understand that it will live for about 15 years, but it will have to be replaced after about 10 years. So what could it be repurposed for after it gets replaced?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, my understanding is that with a proper maintenance schedule, which it certainly will follow, the vehicle itself should last more than 10 years, between 15 and 20.
Yeah.
Some of the technology and the pieces on it will have to be upgraded as technology and computers advance. So we'll be coming back and advising as we're doing that. As far as repurposing, that's going to be a significant, I'm expecting 20 years down the road before we have to repurpose it or use it.
So we're not going to turn it into a food truck or anything, so,
That's not presently part of our plan, no.
thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, the 1,347,325, is that related to fully outfitted in the vehicle with all the IT equipment we need? Because I further find here that look at the utilization of drones, whether it's for a policing event or even for a fire event. Is that going to be included as the apparatus within the vehicle, or are we looking at another cost factor there?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the 1.347 million is the bidded amount that ITB, the company that we're selecting, or we're recommending as the preferred vendor, has submitted based on our specifications, which is the vehicle, the foundation of the background, any extraneous outfitting such as a drone or some of the radio communications will be supplementary to that. For the vehicle manufacturer to supply a drone, we didn't feel it's the most appropriate. So
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about the total cost here. So I'm just trying to get my sense of what we approved, which is about just over 1.8. And if that extra 500 that's built in here is going to be utilized to outfit the vehicle the way it's required. It requires some communications equipment, some special equipment based on fire use and police use. Or are we looking at something coming back to council out of a capital budget now to outfit the vehicle the way it should be outfitted in order for it to be utilized?
through the chair to Councillor Heed, we will follow any finance and procurement protocols as, with respect to what our limits are for spending. Asking for access to further funding may happen, but at this point, we're focusing on getting the contract for the vehicle to be supplied and then to see exactly what those needs are at the time. Anything, and I'll use from my business unit as an example, fire radios, we can install and outfit that through our current operational budget.
So Chief, you and I are used to certain setups of command vehicles. What do you foresee happening? Because you're going to have a lot of technology in there. If you take it to a major crime scene, the utilization, even the locking of evidence, all of that. And just for our general manager to be aware of, do we have a rough estimation of how much it's going to cost the taxpayers to outfit that vehicle?
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, we do have a breakdown of the equipment and the inventory that's going to be required. So we could be operational, whether it's computers, printers, drones, whatnot. So we do have a itemized list that can be produced.
But that was never part of this capital budget for this vehicle, or was it?
Through your worship, or through the chair to Councillor Heed, the amount of 1 million, the amount that's identified in recommendation 1 is the full cost that's anticipated at this time. And I note in conclusion of the report, it does reference the fact that any unused amount from the original 1.815 million would be returned to its original funding source.
So Mike, I'm just wondering if we're going to be shocked now because we're going to need a whole bunch of money now to outfit this vehicle that we just paid 1.34 for.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the outfitting cost for the vehicle that's required per what the OIC had mentioned, it will be utilized based on how much funding is available within the capital budget that was approved originally by council, the 1.8. So the difference between 500,000 could be utilized for outfitting cost. And it will follow the procurement process to proceed with the awards. However, should the outfitting cost exceed what's available in the budget, then we'll have to come back to council and ask for additional funding.
Okay, so delivery of the vehicle is when? I'm just trying to line everything up so we don't have this vehicle, which is a shell, delivered to us, and we haven't approved all the money that's required now to outfit it. So delivery on this vehicle, and then I take it Mike, finance is trying to coincide with all this and with the chiefs.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, yes, we are working with staff, with fire and RCMP in terms of the timing, the delivery of the vehicle. I would have to defer that to the fire chief to respond to.
Whenever it is, I just want to make sure that we're ready to go to give them what we want for that particular vehicle. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion? Second? All in favor? Thank you. Fire chief briefing, anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only comment I want to make is based on the recent fire at the Fraser Place Apartments. Obviously, I'm biased, but I couldn't be more proud of the crews for the hard work and the great outcome, positive outcome, in spite of the damage. As well, the management of the evacuees was done very, very professionally, very well, because of a number of things. The relationship that we have with the detachment, the RCMP, and their assistance with that, the emergency programs team that was there, as well as our partners in the city with the Steveston Community Center, who opened up the building to us late after hours and supported it, plus the city's Red Cross volunteers that came out and stayed till almost 4 or 5 in the morning. That was when I left, and they were still there working. So altogether, I have to say, it again showed me and makes me really proud to be a resident and a community member here, that the city of Steveston and the entire city of Richmond came together to help out all those people, and your family and many, many other families as well. And so that's just my comment on that Fraser Place fire.
Thank you. Councillor Hobbs?
Yeah, thanks, and through the chair. I just want to echo that, Chief. I went down to the scene. You have a few people that came out of the building, and the operations on scene was seamless, I thought. And also I went to the community center and stayed there for a little bit. And yeah, what you said is exactly true. The Red Cross, your emergency teams, Brennan was doing a great job, the community center staff, and the people that came in, you could just kind of see the relief on their face when they came in, and it was organized and it was done in a timely way. So yeah, big compliments to you, and I heard a lot of positive comments. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. That was a big event and obviously kept our crew quite busy. I know in cases like this, we often rely on other cities to give backup support should we need it. Were we in need of any other assistance from another fire department?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, in the early stages of that event, we had most of our fire apparatus that were on duty at the scene attacking the fire. Yeah. And the best way to deal with that is to get way ahead of it and put lots of effort and people power onto it. So that emptied out a number of our fire halls. We leaned on our colleagues in Vancouver to come in and staff a number of our fire halls with apparatus on standby for 2 reasons. One, to protect the rest of the city while we were busy with that call. And secondly, should that fire become more problematic in the next number of hours, we'd need immediate assistance right away rather than waiting for call-out staff. And so, yes, we did call in Vancouver. The Vancouver Fire Chief supplied 4 trucks for us that sat in the fire halls for a number of hours until we started clearing from the scene.
Just in case fire trucks. just in
That's right.
case, yeah.
And
Okay,
s-
well,
Similar to our experience from a while ago when we went into Dunbar and assisted with that large fire when, Vancouver had a really bad day as well.
right, and that's why you do all that training.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to receive? Second, all in favor? Thank you. RCMP monthly report, thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I don't have anything to add to my report. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Heath.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A couple of things I just want to point out. On the boost and bust that you talk about on October 18th, 15 suspects, most of whom reside outside the jurisdiction. That is a very particular point I want to make here. 42. And you and I talked about this previously, when you told me that most of the people are living outside the jurisdiction. So we often equate, and we all often think we're similar to Vancouver, like these street people are going in, like they do in Vancouver, and they steal things from the stores. You do a boost and bust here, and you get it, and they don't even live in Richmond. So, and I believe that's a consistent theme you've found throughout the year.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Heath, what we have experienced here in Richmond is that approximately 3/4 of these individuals are from other jurisdictions who come to this city and they commit this type of crime.
And I know when I talked to the superintendent last time, I was asking if she was successful in getting no-goes to Richmond. I know that's a wide one, and often, the courts at one time weren't going with that. But are we getting the no-go to Richmond?
To the chair, to Councillor Heath, this is something that I have directed our officers to be very mindful of. When an individual is released on UTA, undertaking to appear, that we make sure that there's conditions are imposed on those orders, either that they cannot go to a specific store or specific area. And once these individuals breach those conditions, then it's a different offense.
And hopefully we can get the no-go to Richmond. Okay, just on the mental health things, and it's 43, 57 police apprehensions. And although you make a comment that the average was 128 minutes, that's still 2 hours. And it's within the range, but that's a long time. I know I'd be as frustrated as hell if I had to wait for hospital staff to take someone that's under the Mental Health Act into their care.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Heath. I get briefed by our teams on a weekly basis, and sometimes people are in the hospital for 5 minutes. Sometimes they're there for 5 to 6 hours. And in this monthly report, we did have 12 files that had exceptional wait times that were above 3 hours. So that sort of skews the average wait time. But it all depends. Once a person is taken to the hospital, based on the situation of that individual, we may have physicians who can quickly tend to that client, or sometimes, if depending on the hospital situation, how busy they are or what else is happening at that time, these wait times can be extended. Usually, like in this case, we had about 12 files that had a wait time of over 3 hours.
Incredible. You know, I've got to say, from my point, that's unacceptable from Coastal Health, completely unacceptable. We ran into this at St. Paul's Hospital, and we were able to, and I think that's still the protocol with that institution, that it is turned over once a security guard's there, that the police can actually leave. So, I just think we need to do some work on that, because you've got, one caller, 7 incidents on one person. Is it a revolving door worse than the courts system in the hospital for people that have some mental health issue?
Yes, to the chair, to Councillor Heath. In this reporting period, we had 31 individuals who had 2 or more MHA-related calls. And I know several months ago, I spoke here, one individual who had generated over 30 calls in that one-month period. So our former Fox 80 team, now referred to as Fox 67, and our vulnerable persons unit, we are constantly engaged with these individuals, trying to provide them whatever support they can so we can reduce these repeated calls. But yes, unfortunately, here, we did have one person who made 7 calls to us in this reporting period. And just, if I may just quickly touch on the hospital wait times, we do work with the hospital staff. If somebody's been there for longer than an hour or two, then we have a contact through an NCO with the physicians who are working to determine why the delay, or is there anything else that can be done, because we don't want the officers to be sitting at the hospital for that long of a time.
So I know with you, it's in fine hands. Do you think it would help if we had a letter written from the mayor to Coastal Health? If you don't think so, I won't refer it, but if it absolutely will help, if yourself or Ed can gather some stats and provide it to the mayor's office for the mayor to write a letter, fine, but if not, I'll just leave it.
To the chair, to Councilor Heed, I think any support that we can get to make the system better. I can't speak to what the situation is at the hospital, but if there's any support, that's always appreciated.
I'll make a referral when this is done.
Councillor Galanders?
Thank you through the chair. Thanks for the report. Thanks for the whole service and all the hard work, as usual. Just want to comment on some of the statistics. And I know that, these go up and down every month, but I just think that they're really remarkable and are worth mentioning. Starting right from CS 42, that the arsons are down 32% compared to the same period last year. The assaults, serious assaults, so this is a serious issue. The number of serious assaults this month is below the average range, 53% decrease from last month. Auto thefts are down 19% and below the average range. The break and enters, residential, down 10%, below the average range. Commercial break and enters, 40% decrease from the previous month, below the average range. Robberies are down 4%. So the ones that are still, not great and a concern are the sexual offenses, for example, being that those are above the average range. And on CS 44, it mentions 55% of the offenses were due to the creation of, the child exploitation unit relating to the making and distribution of child pornography and the child luring. So I was just wondering how education and prevention, reporting, how is it going with regards to children being aware of the dangers and they're reporting the things in themselves and the parents knowing and everything?
To the chair, to Councilor Galanders, I'll just quickly touch on the BC ICE component. So British Columbia Integrated Child Exploitation Unit, they're based out of headquarters in Green Timbers in Surrey. And they work in coordination with other police agencies in Canada and overseas as well. And from time to time, there are number of individuals from a particular city, and in this case, Richmond here, where information or evidence is gathered where there's child pornography making distribution happening. And those files, they get sent to the local police department. And in this reporting period, we had 24 of those that were reported to us. And, but as far as the parents and children being aware, our members are engaged at the school level. So these sort of conversations are taking place at that place, in the schools. And, and individuals are encouraged to report these incidents to us, and kids are being made aware of those, that type of information as well at school level.
Yeah, That's good. It's just, yeah, it's terrible to read that. But I know that we are doing a lot to educate and prevent, and kids are always being told, you know, the things to look out for. But when you have these screens in their rooms unsupervised, anything can happen, and it's really dangerous. And then the shoplifting, as was mentioned, you know, a lot of these coming from the other communities. And the mental health is still a struggle, and it just goes to show, you know, like the mental health incidence is increasing, being above the average range, that this truly is a safe community, and the people that are struggling the most are the people with mental health issues, and they're at the greatest risk is those people being at risk to themselves. And it is terrible to hear about the wait times at the hospital always, and I was just writing down wording for what a referral can be as Councillor Heed was talking, so that's good, especially if there is some other community that got a handle on it with regards to being able to let the RCMP go once a security guard was there. It seems like if that's already been done before, it should be, you know, easier to implement, and we just need to sort of say we need the help and the support. So I definitely would support that referral. So thanks.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if I may just make one quick comment to the chair. You know, just speaking about shoplifting, last year around this time, we were 29% above the numbers. But it is because of, as a result of sustained efforts by Frontline Policing, Property Crime Unit, and others, those numbers have come down. So it's good to see that. Yes.
Councillor Day.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was pleased to see that there was less commercial break-ins as well. It sounds like Richmond's a pretty good place to have a business. You don't have to deal with people shooting up the front of your store. We just haven't had that kind of crime that we certainly see on the news almost daily from Surrey. So overall, is it just a safe environment for businesses?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Day. Overall, Richmond is a wonderful, safe city. And sometimes when we see little spikes in crime, it could be an individual or just few people. Yeah. And we are currently working on some of those people. And once, you know, they go through the process and we lay the charges, we'll see those numbers dip. But yeah, so we have good teams working out there. There's good intelligence sharing just within our detachment and along with our neighboring detachments as well. You know, some of these targets are operating in Vancouver, some are in Burnaby, some are in Surrey. So there's a lot of nexus between some of these files, and we have been quite successful in sharing that intelligence and arresting and charging these individuals, especially for commercial B&Es.
Yeah, and I also noted the 128 minutes waiting at the hospital. I just don't understand for the life of me why a police officer has to be there for that entire time. And I think it was Councillor Heed mentioned that in St. Paul's that a security guard was allowed to take over. That seems like something we should do.
To the chair, to Councillor Day, I'll have to look into that, but the current law that is in place for us, if a police officer, you know, escorts an individual who's apprehended under Mental Health Act, Section 28, we have to maintain custody of that individual until they are certified by the physician. There are certain liabilities if they're turned over to a security personnel, but I'll have to make some inquiries about the St. Paul, see how that operates.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in hearing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I understand too that if they build sort of a triage area, that people can be signed off into this triage area. And so I'm wondering if, as they build the new hospital, that they incorporate the correct infrastructure inside of it so that the police aren't the ones standing there holding somebody's hand for the whole time.
Yes, Madam Chair, but for the current time being, that person is still our responsibility. If we are not there and some health professional or some patient is assaulted or whatnot, that becomes a liability issue too as well. So we got to be there for that security piece as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Heed, you wanted to give your referral? Or just make a motion?
Yeah, I'll
I think you
make a
can,
motion that the mayor writes a letter to the board chair of Coastal Health and the current president and CEO, it's a dual role, of Coastal Health, outlining the information with regard to excessive wait times for individuals that are arrested under the Mental Health Act by the RCMP in Richmond. And I'm hoping that the RCMP will provide the data for the letter of the mayor can write of this being unacceptable, and we'd be looking for solutions so these police officers could get back to their functions. Words to that effect.
okay, second? Counselor Hobbs, you have a comment?
Yeah, just on the motion to refer, or for the letter, I support that, of course. But the one thing I'm curious about related to is just the chiefs of police. You might not have that information, but there have been reports done on this in the past. So maybe early in the next year, when we talk about this again, because it comes up a lot, we might get the current situation for the BC Chiefs of Police Association. And I know it's a constant, almost a constant effort on their part to address this, serious issue.
Yes,
We'll wait for next year.
yes.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
All in favor? Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Motion to receive? Second, all in favor? Thank you. Sorry, we threw in the referral in the middle of that. Richmond briefing, you have anything else to add?
Yes, Madam Chair, just two quick things. I just want to just very briefly, sincerely thank all council for approving the additional positions for the Richmond RCMP. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated by our members on the ground, and it deeply and directly strengthens community safety in our city. So thank you for that. And secondly, just a quick update on the 11th annual RCMP toy drive. Again, this was we continue to beat records every year. So this year over $33,000 was raised, and 1,500 pounds of toys. So all of that money and the toys will go to support families and children in the city.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Counselor Galandris, you have a question?
Yes, sorry, how many pounds of toys did you say?
1,500.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, good job, that's great to see.
thank you.
Thank you. Motion to receive? Second, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next item, item number 7, referral response results of the Alderbridge neighborhood discussions. Mr. Newman.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Nothing to add. Happy to answer questions.
Counselor Galandris?
Oh, thanks. Thanks for coming back with this summary. I'm so glad that we did these sessions. I hope that the residents in the neighborhood, as well as the residents of the facilities, felt heard and like their voices were important. Part of me like flipping my pages, trying to find it. I was curious regarding the, on CS 65, questions were repeatedly raised about Rain City's staffing levels to manage the operations of Alderbridge Supportive Housing. Participants suggested that additional staffing was needed. It doesn't specify whether you're speaking about the residents of the modular housing saying this to you, or if was from the people in the neighborhood just saying they should have more staff. Because I know that I've spoken to some residents of the units who feel that, there has been staff that's been really helpful and is engaged and is helping them move on and get on with their lives and is a real cornerstone in that, and then all of a sudden that person will be gone. And so was it from the residents?
Through the chair to Councilor Galanders, no. The comment was from participants in the dialogue discussions or the community discussions.
Sorry, you said that some of the participants were residents, though. That's why I'm asking.
Residents of the neighborhood, not residents of Alderbridge Supportive Housing.
Yeah, you would have had a riot if they were
Just
in
let
there
me
together.
just catch this for 1 second. I thought for sure that I read that 6 residents from one of the, from Alderbridge Place also attended one of the sessions. You didn't have any sessions with anybody that lived there?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, no, none of the residents attended the sessions themselves.
Okay, that's weird. I thought that I saw that. Because I thought we were doing sort of a both thing, but, okay. So it was, well, in that regard then, the people in the neighborhood that suggested there should be additional staff, I know that some residents of the house have said the same thing. So I was wondering with regards to, this whole motion was about having greater oversight, knowing that this is BC Housing contract with Rain City. It's not ours. We don't have direct whatever, but, is there any way, is there a mechanism of checking, like auditing per se, that all the money that's gone from BC Housing to Rain City for staffing is being used as expected by BC Housing, like to see if those contracts have all been fulfilled properly? Is that something that we've pursued?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, we can look into that. We can have that conversation with BC Housing. I will say, though, that as a result of the discussions with the community and more direct conversations with Rain City staff, we do understand that there is a need for more staffing. And we are having that conversation with BC Housing, and they are actively looking at additional resources for the site.
Okay, so you're actively engaging with BC Housing on this feedback, so we don't need to make a motion to write a letter to forward this report or anything. It's actually being done in conjunction. They're aware of it, and we're advocating for more resources for it then.
We have very constructive ongoing discussions. We have a meeting Thursday to continue the discussion.
Great, thank you so much.
Councillor Day?
Thank you so much. Well, we ask that you reach out to the neighbors and find out what's going on, because we have a small group of people that make a lot of noise, and I wanted to know how many people are really concerned about the Rain City. And in June, you sent out 1,808 letters. 20 residents who lived in the area came to the meeting. In September, you had 3 meetings, and you sent out 2,650 letters, and 39 people came out. And same complaints we've heard all along. So what's your sense of what the general opinion is of that facility in that area, given that that's pretty low turnout, given how many thousands of letters were sent out?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I would just say that from the people that did attend, this general sentiment was, as outlined in the report, some sense of hopelessness, some areas of concern, things though that we're actively looking to address. The report largely identifies the things that we are doing or have done in response to some of the conversations that we had recently, but this has been ongoing conversations with Rain City and BC Housing since Olderbridge Supportive Housing opened. So I want that to just be heard in the sense that this isn't a response to what we've heard this past month. These conversations have been happening, as I say, it's very collaborative with BC Housing and Rain City to make this a functional site for the community.
And bearing that, moving it. As that's what I sort of read in the comments, is that most of them just don't want it there. They want it somewhere else. But do we even have another location to move that facility to?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, we're actively working with BC Housing on another site.
Can the same modular units be picked up and moved and reassembled in another location?
It's our understanding that it's very difficult to do that with this modular construction.
So that the BC Housing would have to buy a whole new modular apartment, or whatever you want to call it, and then put that in a new location.
It's very
Yeah, okay. The one thing I heard talking to the residents that live there as well was that some people had been there for 6 years because there's nowhere to move to. Have we made any progress on that?
Through the chair, Councillor Day. So we do have one project, the Pathways Project Rio Vista on number 2.
Yeah.
That's nearing completion. It will have 20 units of deeply subsidized housing, and generally those individuals that are in a position to be able to live more independently tend to be living on a fixed income and tend to be able to afford shelter rates. But to your point, no, there's not a great inventory of that housing with that depth of affordability available.
Well, I remember when we decided to build those modular units in the first place, we were promised, and I'm talking by ministers, that, oh yes, this is just the first stage, and the idea is we're gonna get them healthy and then get them to move on with their lives. And that's missing part, is still missing. And that's what I find so frustrating, is we did our part. We said, okay, bring in the modular units, we'll help those really needy people. But then when they're stuck there for this long, and I'm sure they don't want to be there any more than, anybody else. So I don't know, I guess we just keep lobbying for the provincial and federal governments to build more deeply subsidized housing, so those who are houseable and can move on. Because not everybody can, but the ones who can should have that opportunity. It just seems grossly unfair. But I can't thank you enough for sending out over, almost 5,000 letters and reaching those 60-odd people. I know it must be frustrating when that's a low turnout, but at least we're trying. We're doing our best. So thank you for all that.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair. Well, just in addition to the previous comments, I do want to acknowledge and thank you for the tremendous effort put on the community engagement and the outreach, because this was a council direction. We did have people come to us expressing their concerns about the situation, and I think it's important that we respond to that. And so you are the frontline staff that are responding to it, and I think that's important. I just want to make a note of some facts, like calls for service are down. So I would take it that we are making a positive difference in the area, and also that, there have been concrete changes made too. I remember people coming and talking to us about the park, for instance, and if you look on page, I forget what it is, but 65 maybe, there are a number of bullet points here that outline some of the changes that have been made. So it's incremental changes that make improvements, and I just want to thank you for doing that. And I think it's important that we fulfill our commitment to the community to reach out, listen to them, and talk to Rain City as well, and try to make those changes to improve the situation for everybody. So thanks for doing that.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, just quickly, thank you for the report. You've done your homework. I'm not as optimistic as everybody else is. I think the community has failed us by not responding. This was their opportunity. Did we record names of who attended? Like, do we know the president of one of the strata buildings? I mean, around the area, there's a number of towers.
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, we did have sign-in sheets for folks attending.
Did you recognize any of them as leaders in those stratas? That you may have seen them before, say, at city council meetings. That's what I'm getting to. I guess what I'm saying, the people who needed to be there probably weren't there. And that's what really bothers me. And this is what you get in something like this. So to say that, everything is honky-dory, I wouldn't say it is until we know that those leaders are able to lead properly and say that they're doing and be on our side. So just to the chair, I'd be interested to see who the 39 residents were, and whether 13 different senders for 20 emails. I wonder if we got 7 of them from one person who I might be thinking the name. I'm not asking you to put it on, but let's call it as we see it out there. Okay, we need to take those issues, and some of these people will say, oh, well, everything's okay, we know what you're doing, et cetera. But it's the others we need to get on board. And I don't believe they are. In the same way down at Aberdeen, in the same way. I think we have some work to do yet. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Glanders.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Just to follow up, I just want to point out that it was my mistake when I was looking at CS 63 about the 2024 neighborhood sessions, and that's when we had residents from the building that came in, and an additional session was held with Elderbridge supportive housing residents, and 6 supportive housing residents attended it. And whatnot. So that's where I got that number from, so I just wanted you all to know, I did read it somewhere, but that wasn't in relation to what you just did. And then I just want to echo the comments of Councillor Day about the continuum of housing and just that, yeah, that was promised and that the residents have said that, you know, once they're in there, the province is just like, check, you know, you're housed, so don't have to worry about you anymore and figure it out. And it's not the best environment to be in for 6 years. And to hear that, you know, the next thing we've got coming up is pathways for 20 units. And it just makes me think how grateful I am for associations like Pathways. Like they really just do so much heavy lifting in this community, like in so many different areas when it comes to housing, and then our affordable housing strategy that we're working towards on some big projects we've got coming up on city-owned land. So we're certainly doing our part, and that's all we can do.
Thank you.
That's it.
Councillor Heed?
Yes, just quickly, I want to thank you two very much, because look, you sent it out there, you did what the committee asked you to do, you got a 1% return. A 1% return. So people need to put that in perspective of what is going on. But you people have gone that extra length, so I just wanted to say thank you very much. I could see that the caring and the passion in you, but it's disappointing on the return. Thank you.
Thank you. I think also, as staff mentioned, what's indicative is the frustration level and the feeling of hopelessness of the residents in the neighborhood, realizing that unless the police see it, nobody's getting arrested, nobody's getting taken away, nothing's happening, and frustration with how the program's been rolled out for them. So people aren't necessarily coming out because they don't see that anything's going to happen. And that's what I got out of this report. So have we got a motion on the table? Second, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Managers, 7.1, unsheltered sites on Crown land. Councillor Heed, you had comment, question?
Yes, and I know the chief is here, and I think it might be advisable for both chiefs to come forward, because there are some issues with respect to this. And I know the police chief has personally gone out there with his members and viewed at least the photos that I saw under the Oak Street Bridge. And we had a bit of a conversation with respect to some of the equipment that was there. And I know the fire chief is very well aware of both of these locations. And certainly I have a copy of the mayor's a letter and that he sent to the premier with these photos and that. But Chief, I was very concerned about something with respect to, and I don't know if you were able to verify this or not, with the generators under the Oak Street Bridge.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Heed. So about a week ago or so, I went with our partners from Bylaws Outreach Team and our members to Oak Street Bridge, just to kind of get firsthand observations of the situation there involving the individuals. And before going there, there was one piece of information that was shared by our members, is that there was an individual at that location who was provided with a generator from the Ministry of Social Services and Poverty Reduction. So I delved into that, and what I have determined is that there are certain individuals who want housing, but they cannot find it. So Ministry of Social Services has provided them with, certain comforts, and in this case, a generator. And this was one generator that was provided to an individual, 5th and Westminster area, and there was one generator was provided to individual residing under the Oak Street Bridge. Unfortunately, that generator is obviously not there because somebody stole it, so they are without the generator there.
And I want to thank you for that. and I want to just make everyone aware, that is, in my opinion, as a counselor, completely unacceptable, completely unacceptable. And I'm hoping the media does pick up on this. And I guess I want from the chiefs, the fire chiefs' comments with respect to the dangers, not only from a public safety, but a fire perspective, which is public safety of 5 in Westminster and Oak Street Bridge, when we have these types of props being provided by a government agency, and the overall aspect of the dangers.
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, comments certainly. Anytime industry or contractors or city staff or my staff operate any of that equipment, we have to have a hazardous materials plan, a spill plan, a fire response plan, because while the equipment is helpful, there are risks to using that type of equipment, especially with fuel, fire, potential injuries. It's difficult to comment on exactly how we can support public safety when these kind of events are occurring without any consultation and consideration. I'll reflect back on a couple of recent operations that we worked in tandem with the RCMP and our colleagues in bylaws, where we removed potential fire hazards from some of these sites simply because of the risk, not only to the community, but also to those people that are in those particular areas as well. And so by removing those hazards, we believe we prevent injuries and prevent further fire spread and potentially deaths.
And, you know, I would go to a paragraph in the mayor's letter to the premier. Most critically, one of these sites located at number 5 Road in Westminster has numerous fire safety issues, but is inaccessible to emergency vehicles due to MOTT traffic barriers, which would impede access to arriving fire engines and first responders, including BC Emergency Health Services. Completely unacceptable.
And epically difficult for us to respond and perform our work.
I throw up my hands here. You know, the mayor, I like the letter he wrote. I like the pictures he sent. But then we find this information out. Yep. So I guess I just would like to hear from some of the others here on what the heck are we supposed to do here now? We've got these 2 unsheltered locations that are a significant hazard. And whether we have something from our law department with respect to this, I know Mr. Corrado from Bylaws is here also. You know, we've
Tony's
gotta
ready
deal
to
with it.
answer if
Through
you'd
the
like.
chair to Councillor Heed, we are aggressively on top of this. We've already had an issue with the Ministry of Transportation. You'll recall at the last meeting when this came up, I mentioned that the fire RFR had issued a notice of contravention, that we served the minister, and that we were going to take action. We ordered them to remove these things. Then I was on the phone in a group meeting with Mark Corrado and others, with the lawyers of the Attorney General, who expressed the view that they are not bound by our bylaw. They relied on a section of the Interpretation Act, section 14.2, which says that the province is not bound by any enactment when it comes to the use and development of land. We rejected that argument and made the point that this use is not a use contemplated by section 14 sub 2. We will pursue our order. After that, they cleaned up and they got together and they removed materials. Now we're back in the same situation. And as a result of this issue being raised by Councillor Heed a few weeks ago, I recall, or maybe a bit longer, we contacted the Ministry of Transportation and took the same position. They showed up, unfortunately, just visited one site. I think it's kind of paraphrased in that letter. Very, very disappointing. Yes, they showed up, they saw it, but they didn't commit to anything. So now we have had meetings internally, and our inclination at this time is to set up the necessary operational team to exert our authority. As I said, we reject the Ministry of Transportation's position with respect to the immunity they say they have under Section 14 Sub 2. So under our fire bylaw, which allows the fire chief to make an order similar to what was ordered before, we also have the authority to go in and remove those dangerous items that the fire chief alluded to. So that is in process. That involves coordination with the OIC, with the fire, with bylaws, and other operational groups. But we are marching forward. Rest assured, we are not waiting for the Ministry of Transportation. If we end up in court fighting off an injunction, so be it. But the reality is, as Councillor Heed said, this is unacceptable that the province would just sit there on their laurels and not do anything. It's a real significant life safety issue, and we are doing everything within our municipal authority to rectify that.
So with the inclusion of this information, we're actually, they're providing equipment for these people. And as the fire chief alluded to, it doesn't meet any protocols within or apparent protocols within. Does that add to the seriousness of this, or does it give, whatever, they're going to stand by their authority?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that provides us with further ammunition.
Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Yeah, completely unacceptable. I agree. Nobody has immunity from protecting people from risk to life or even serious risk to property. There's no immunity for that. So this jurisdictional issue, it's great to have that preliminary conversation, but it is time for action, actually, because we can see the risks. We've all seen the risks. We've all seen tragic consequences from people to do with fire and other health issues. It's an environmental issue, it's a health issue, it's a life and safety issue. And the fact that perhaps with the best of intentions that it's being enabled by a senior level of government is a little bit bizarre, for sure. So, I don't want to see a tragic event occur, and I can foresee that happening. It's a train that you can see coming down the tracks. We've all seen it when it hits, and I don't want to see that happen. So I'm glad to hear from our general manager and from our two chiefs that action is going to be taken because it's an imminent risk, it's unhealthy, unsafe, and the first order of business is to protect lives and to protect property as well, but in this case, protect lives. And I think that we have to take that into consideration. And regardless of jurisdictional issues, the common law principle applies, and you know all about that, and you have a duty to do that. And I don't think that I'd be too worried about somebody launching any kind of injunction against us taking action to protect people's lives. So, thank you.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, and good comments from everybody, and I appreciate the work that Law is doing on this and appreciate the briefing. Definitely unacceptable. I don't think that we can paint every situation with the exact same brush, and I'm not going to minimize it at all, but I agree it's completely unacceptable to bring a fuel generator to the camp that already has that element of violence that's been growing, that's in a place where a first responder couldn't respond to an incident. Like, that's very irresponsible. But then I also appreciated the way in which you described the other person who is looking for housing at 5 in Westminster, and I know that it's a slightly different situation, and if I'm not sure that it's who I think it is, but I do know about a senior couple that was there before there was any encampment, and they do want housing, and the husband is in the hospital, and she's waiting for him to get better, and they're trying to get a place together. And I think that there should be a little bit of discretion with regards to the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, knowing if this people who have lived a lot of life and have their trailer and are able to operate a generator safely. And she's cold and they wanted her to, you know, make it through the season and offered that little bit of help. So I think that, I don't think it's black and white. I don't think every single situation is unacceptable. I do have huge concerns with it and where this is going. And then also that the level of help is ending at, you know, dropping off a generator. But at the same time, I don't know that that's where the help is ending. But if they're really that concerned, this couple really wants housing and can't find it, well, instead of just dropping off a generator, why not find a provincial owned piece of land and put up a little tiny home or a CCAN and staff it and power it and monitor it and give them some housing, you know, like, it's ridiculous, but it's just a tough situation. But yeah, I appreciate bringing it up, and I'm glad that we're on top of it and the safety of everybody living there and our residents. Thanks.
Councillor Day.
Yeah, I also went underneath the Oak Street Bridge and saw what was there, and I was very dismayed at what I saw. And these people need help. You know, they don't need to go to jail. They just need help, and the ministry has to step up. When it comes to the generator situation, if you've got a couple, as Councillor Glander has mentioned, that kind of have it together, they just need a place to go and they got no place to go. What would stop the ministry from saying, okay, you guys can manage on your own. We're going to put you in an actual campsite and we'll pay for the campsite until such time that we can find you a proper house or apartment or whatever. I mean, it seems to me that if there are people that they feel are good enough that they're willing to give them a generator, well then move them to, you know, there's a campsite out in Tawasin, there's a campsite in Burnaby, there's a campsite in North Vancouver. You know, let's get busy, let's get going on this. So I think that is a reasonable request that if we can't house them, then at least house them in a campsite because they've already got the trailer. Secondly, it's not if someone's going to die because of the fire. Somebody already has, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was about 3-4 years ago, there was a man that burned to death in a tent underneath the Oak Street Bridge. I spoke to his wife, and she was devastated.
September 2023.
Yeah, it happens, and it's just not acceptable to have people living in a place where underneath Oak Street Bridge is like, it's like a war zone down there. And when I went there, I was shocked at what I saw. And so, you know, we just got to keep the pressure on. But for those who are housable, let's find a way to house them. And if it isn't a CCAN, whatever, let's make it happen. So let's keep the pressure on.
Thank you, because we do know the neighbors are beside themselves with aggravation and upset as well. They're constantly having things stolen, people passed out in their common areas, and there's all kinds of stuff. And it's coming from that area and people camping around that. And you know, if we're not able to deal with people who are on these sites, how can we also prevent people from coming onto the site? Like, once this gets cleaned up, then what stops the next guy from showing up? And then what stops the next guy from finding a new provincial spot? So as long as they know it's not city land, they can go and set up camp there. What provisions do we have in place to stop people from doing this? And do we have any control over, you know, the bushes and the grass and the, you know, proliferation of blackberry bushes on that 5 in Westminster site? So maybe we should mow the whole thing down, and it makes it a lot less pleasant to try and camp there. Do we have jurisdiction to do that? We can't go there at all?
No.
Can we fence it off?
Well, I mean, the 2 parts of land we are talking about, that's a provincial government land, so that complicates that. But I just want to make one quick comment. You know, there's always some good news here as well. There were 2 individuals who were part of Oak Street Bridge, and 2 of them have gone for treatment. So that was nice to see. And there was 1 female who was there as well, and she was lucky that she found housing at Esther Place, so which is good.
Thank you. Okay. Motion to receive for information. Second. Thank you. Managers report. Do we have any managers reports today? We are adjourned. Thank you.